My name is Adrian, and I have been married to my high school sweetheart for 21 years. We've been together for 24 years. I'm a nurse at Ball Memorial Hospital. So growing up, how I dreamed my life would be I was going to get married and buy a house and have children and raise those children, be close to my family, kind of how I grew up with lots of cousins and, spending time together. And I didn't really necessarily have a career in mind when I was growing up. The main thing was I wanted to be a mom. I wanted to be a wife and a mother, and that was kind of the way I anticipated my life. Even in early marriage, I had a job that I liked, but my focus was on being a mom, and so therefore I didn't put school first, and just kind of let that go by the wayside and just focused on trying to have a family and working. After we had been married for about a year, my husband and I decided that we were going to try to start having children. After a couple of years and that not happening, life became a little frustrating. Wasn't sure why it wasn't happening. So we started pursuing going to the doctor. They kept saying that we needed to relax, or it was because we were trying too hard, those types of things. So another year or two went by, and still we weren't able to have children. And the longer that it went that we weren't able to, the more frustrated I got, the more sad I got. Friends started having children. My sister started having children. My sister-in-law did. And I just felt like everyone was moving on with their life, and my dream wasn't coming true, but theirs was. And so then we did end up seeking fertility treatment and going through all of that. And so just the longer that we went through, and the more we tried, and the more that it didn't happen, and the more other people were having babies, the sadder and more discontent I became. I started comparing my life to other people. I started wondering why they were able to have children and we weren't able to have children. And then in 2008, after almost 8 years of trying, we found out that I was never going to be able to have children due to some physical things that were going on. So that was a very hard reality to face when all you wanted in your life was to become a mom. Like, that was the goal. I had no big career dreams, just to become a mom. And so that was a very hard time. Several ways that I compared myself. One, I would often be very judgmental as far as like seeing parents, and I would think, oh, I would have been a better parent. Or I would think, why were they able to become children or have children and they treat their children poorly? Or you would hear stories of how children were beaten or mistreated, or that just kind of fueled anger and resentment and all that kind of stuff towards God, because like, why them and not me? So that was the big comparing thing. Why were they able to have children and I was not able to have children? Coming out of that discontentment, it took me a long time. It was many years. I spent about 9 years being very discontent, being very angry, being very bitter. I had moments of happiness. I had moments that would just trigger and I would spiral, but for the most part, I was very stagnant. I was very numb. I kind of just shut myself down. And it was at a women's retreat that the Jar had put on that we kind of had a moment that we were able to go out alone. And I kind of had this moment of clarity where I needed to let go of my anger in order to become content, and in order to start to feel things and deal with things. God also laid it upon me that instead of comparing my life to other people and wondering why they were able to have children and I wasn't, to start praying for them. So when those feelings would start to come on, instead I would pray for that child, I would pray for that parent, I would pray for that moment that I was feeling self-loathing, and instead I would turn it around and make it about them and instead of myself. And so that was kind of the beginning of coming out of that numbness and discontentment, and accepting that maybe my dream wasn't God's dream. I think being grateful is kind of that thing that helps lift you out of that pit of despair. Gratitude equals joy. So gratitude equals contentment. Thanking Him for the relationship that I had with my husband, thanking Him for the family that I did have, thanking Him for the nieces that He was blessing me with, but also just thanking Him for the relationship that I had with Him, and thanking Him for loving me even when I was at my lowest, even when I didn't feel like I had a relationship with Him. He had a relationship with me, and He still loved me. You're not so focused on what you don't have, you're focused on what you do have. And so therefore there's like a freeing aspect to that. I often say plan B has been better, or plan B isn't so bad. I have enjoyed plan B. So plan A for my life, my plans was to get married and have kids and move forward. But God's plan was a little different, my plan B. But I get to enjoy and have a special relationship with my nieces that I probably wouldn't have been able to have. I've been able to go back to school and become a nurse, which I don't know that I would have done. And to this day, God has never revealed why, and I may never know why, but I stopped asking why. Bottom line is, I just have joy. I don't have that. There are still moments that can get you down, but I don't live there. I'm able to refocus and go back to Jesus and that relationship, and that's where I find it.